Welcome. I'm Janel Koloski, a career mindset coach and actor.
And I'm Amanda DeBraux, a self-authenticity and prosperity life coach and actor as well. And we're your co-host of Mindset Artistry YouTube channel,
where we teach you the art of discovering and using your mindset
to build a career and life you desire.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Mindset Artistry Podcast. This week, we're going to talk about something that's really fun, financial planning for creatives. Yay! And I want to talk about it because we all know that there's the roller coaster ride in the industry of irregular income, or maybe you can't estimate each month. It feels crazy. You're undervaluing your work, or you're letting other people do this, and you're avoiding finances altogether. So financial planning can help. It's helped me immensely. It put a fire under my ass to pursue all these different types of creative jobs I have, and actually finally made the income consistently come in. So we're going to talk about setting financial goals, practical financial planning steps, and negotiating and pricing your work. The gigs, as we call them, can be very unpredictable. And so the way that I fixed that for myself is I looked into my heart and into my skill sets, what excites me and what am I good at? And part of the way I found that was either through market research or talking to other creatives about the jobs that they do, or I believe turning one job into two. So if I would be hired on a commercial set, like one time I was hired as a print model, and we did a little bit of a commercial as well, but it was a non-speaking role. And it's a very small guerrilla style shoot, and I got close to the producer. It was her production company. And at the end of the shoot, I was having a conversation, I'm trying to get more work in the industry. Do you have any ideas, or what do you need to hire people for? And she said, well, based on how I've gotten to know you, I feel like you would probably be really good as a field producer because you can direct people on site. And I've seen how you've interacted with everybody we're working today, from the shop owner to the people working at the restaurant, everything. You're very good with people, and you seem extremely analytical and organized based on how you answered every single email in a timely manner. That's how I created a job for myself. I booked one, and I collaborated with the people that I met and built relationships. And then that was 2 jobs out of the one. So before I move forward, Amanda, can you give your insight on how this has worked in your own life and how you've found more financial opportunities based on different things that you've done?
Sure. I guess I would say the luck of working in corporate. So that really helped nurture skills that I didn't think were going to be a skill set to be used in the creative world, to be very honest. I worked a lot with spreadsheets and creating platforms and programs and implementing. I worked in human resources. I worked with, helping other recruiters and helping them manage their process of recruitment, from the initial interview with the department to actually hiring the person and getting them onboarded. I did onboarding. So, I did a lot of this presentations and onboarding people with, kind stuff. It's like, I didn't think that any of that was a skill set that would transition over to being an actor. I'm going to be very honest. I was like, I don't know what use is going to be. And then as years went by, I dived into the creative world, and I realized that those skill sets are actually valuable. As I stopped and sat down, I was like, oh, this is kind of the back end of production. Spreadsheets, reports, money management, all of that goes into the project that gets produced. And then you go from pre-production to post-production. All that is a skill set. So I was like, oh, I can utilize this to my advantage to be on set in different ways. And so I started connecting with people that I worked with in the past, whether it was commercials or friends or family. And I started working on set as like a PA, or helping with spreadsheets and creating these, call sheets, things like that. All the things that I didn't think were valuable became very valuable, and a skill set that I now have that's transitioning into organizing and management. It is the management behind production. It's the management behind digital marketing. It's the management behind social content. And I really, truly, truly enjoy it. It's fun for me, and it still allows me to be creative. I get paid for it. And I can collaborate with people and be creative in ways that I didn't even know were possible. And I'm learning that now too, skill sets that we started this podcast, and we could talk a little bit about that later. It's like, starting this podcast was a whole nother skill set that Janelle and I had to learn. Like, no one Literally, no one taught us how to do this. We literally were doing our own research, taking the time to understand what a podcast was, what we wanted for our podcast, and all that research. And then we just kind of went with it and took it step by step. And I'm sure Janelle's going to talk about what that's going to look like for you when you are exploring different avenues of your skill set and how that can benefit you, and negotiating that with people and having that conversation in a confident way and not in an insecure way. Like, I don't know, but I could find out. There's so much information that you can find out. Yeah. So it definitely worked in my favor in collaborating with people. And I feel proud of that now. And I say it with my full chest that I worked in corporate now. I can do these things and I really enjoy. So
Yeah, the beauty of getting older is you learn that everything, all life experiences, whether at work or just walking through life, you can use. You're never truly starting from scratch. And even when we started with the podcast, we already had a little bit of editing skills from having to edit self-tapes. So we encourage you, as you're listening, we've shared these personal stories, and now I'm going to get into some practical, very specific steps. But think of your own life and think about your skill sets and how you could monetize them and also enjoy what you're doing. So, keys to setting financial goals. You have to define your needs and wants, and you have to be open about it. I met this print model that was making 6 figures. She was on voiceovers, print, commercials, and I was sitting next to her in an audition. And what do you do other than this? She said, nothing. This is what I do. I was like, what? Like, it's the first time I'd ever had a conversation with someone like that. And then she started telling me how she broke down goals for herself. And she really pushed this and that and leveraged her experience and her manager and all this information. And so I sat down and was like, I want to make 100,000 a year. If she can do it, I can do it. What does that look like for me? So really break down what you want. You know, when looking at it like a business, as an actor, model, photographer, makeup artist, director, writer, there are things that you have to invest in. So actors, we have reels and headshots. So you need to write this out on a piece of paper. And the biggest thing with finance is sometimes people are afraid to look at it. Still exists, my friends, just like your feelings. So you got to write it down and be honest about what you need. Because I've never really thought about like, I can't afford this. It's always been, how can I afford this? And that mindset shift has helped me approach everything differently. So, your basic bills, rent, of course, and all of these things, the tools to pursue your business, whatever type of creative you are. Then create goals for yourself. So I had monthly financial goals or quarterly financial goals. And then you reverse engineer it. And that's where it kind of becomes fun, because then this is where this actor I had met at this commercial audition told me, everything I'm telling you now, what are you good at? I'm like, well, I book commercials, I book print, and I do a little bit of modeling, and I'm interested in voiceover. And she's like, write it down. So I did. And I wrote down how much you could make potentially at the level I was at. I was entry level, you could say, at some, and mid-level at others. And write it on a calendar. How many jobs would that have to be? And it seems silly, but it really makes you a lot more focused and like you have a direction. I'm going to quickly go over practical financial planning steps beyond this whole dreaming and reverse engineering. And then we're going to go back to Amanda before we get into the negotiation side. But number one, you got to track your income and your expenses. So I like to use Monarch, or you could just use your own spreadsheet, but then you can really see where your money is going or how much things really cost. And just like we spoke in the episode before this about, your career goals or your health or goals with your family and your friends, you also have to do that with your finances, because then you really know where you stand. And then you create the budget for 50, 30, 20. 50% for essentials, like rent and things like that, 30% for creative and professional development, and 20% for emergency saving funds. And look, it's okay if you're not making a lot yet. Just work with what you have and then use what we just spoke about to try to build. And when you can, you build an emergency fund, even a small one, because a lot of times, and I know this is a luxury, but you have to start having this mindset that it's not a luxury. It's just how I live my life, and it comes to me. Because I have a question for all of you in a moment, but I'm going to say from my experience, I was coming from a certain mindset that I grew up with. And when I changed that, my money situation changed. And I was kind of doing a lot of similar things. Mindset is so powerful. obviously Mindset Artistry. So you've got a budgeting tool, you're creating the budget and checking in with it, eventually building an emergency fund so you're not relying on credit cards. And this could just be even 1 month, and eventually you move it up to 6 months. Taxes, my friends, independent contractors. You have to, take 25 to 30% of what you get as a contractor. That's going to get, the tax man's going to call you for that. And there was a time where I did not budget enough and I got a $14,000 bill. And I paid it off, luckily, within time. But please also plan for taxes. And lastly, and this is something I'm trying to do now in my 30s, but I hope you can get it to it sooner. If not, any time is the right time. Investing in your future. I didn't learn about investing growing up. It wasn't something that people in my family did. But that is definitely a step I want you all to get to. So I've covered a lot. Take your time listening to this episode. But the last component Amanda and I are very passionate about. So I wanted to get through these practical steps first. And the question I have for you, Amanda, and our audience, and we really want you to ask yourselves is, how are you blocking yourself financially with the way you were taught to interact or ideals about money when you were growing up? How is that blocking you now?
Ooh, good one. Good one. It's the opposite. So I grew up with my parents both working on Wall Street at some point in their early careers. So I was taught very young how to budget a checkbook. My dad sat me down and he's like, all right, this is how you budget checkbook. This is way before, you can get on the app and look at your freaking statement and go, oh yeah, okay, great. In like 2 seconds. This is when you had to write it down. Like, I have $2,000 in my account today. I just spent $30 on groceries. Okay, I gotta write that down. Just subtract that. Like, I literally was taught that, and I had a bank account very young. It wasn't much, but my dad definitely did teach me that. And so my mindset was very different. It was a total opposite. It was like more of a budgeting. It was more strategic. It was more of like very stringent. And not that it was a bad thing, but it definitely restricted me. Be coming from a mindset like that, because it made me feel like money was hard to get, like money required hard work. Not that I'm saying like, the hustle and grind lifestyle is kind of over. It's not, it's being strategic about it in a way that is flowing, the way that it's like you're doing less and receiving more, because you're recognizing where your skill set is. You're not overdoing it when you're burning yourself out. Again, done all of that, working on the 9 to 5 and burning myself out and burning the candle until it was done, and still being depleted creatively, emotionally, physically, and still feeling like I wasn't going to get any further than that because I wasn't valued in my job. And that came from my own worth too, because I didn't actually want to be there. Acting was really my passion. Acting was like, that's where I want to be. And I didn't value enough of being in that career at the time. But so I grew up, and I really had the privilege of understanding a 401k, a pension. I understood that at 18 years old. I was putting in, 10, 15%, and understanding that the business was gonna, or the company you worked for was gonna, add 5 to 10% on that. Like, I understood all that. I understood that investing in all these things and having an IRA and I understood all of that. So I kind of had the opposite. And so getting out of that was a bit of a challenge for me, because I had quit my job and I was like, all right, this is where I'm at. I'm going to have to now be creative with my money, in the sense of, I'm not going to have a check coming in every 2 weeks consistently. That was comfortable. This was a creative field that I was going to be like, all right, I can work today and maybe get 5 to 10 grand for a commercial, but then not get anything for the next 6 months, which had happened. So it's like, what do I do? How do I budget that? And so I really had to learn how to budget. Look, the thumbs up here. All right. I really had to learn how to budget in that mindset of like looking long term and then setting aside money for taxes. Because when the tax time came about, I already had the money. I can just pay it as I got paid, or I put money aside. But it was really, really thinking further out and figuring out, how can I use my money in the best possible way for my own investment as far as my career and my future. And it was a struggle. It was definitely a struggle of understanding what that looked like and getting the odd jobs in between because I never had that before. I really started working in the corporate world since I was like 18 until I was like into my late 20s. So over 10 years. So this was very, very different for me. I did the kind of odd jobs during that, but that was modeling and acting. That wasn't, that was for me passion that became a career path. And, but it was very, very, very different. So my mindset had to change. My mindset changed and I, struggled for a while with understanding what money looked like for me and getting out of that corporate mindset and getting out of that Wall Street mindset and understanding what that looked like for me. And it just looked like, okay, like you said, the 50, the 30, 20 in creative world. Where can I use my skill set? What do I need to learn in order to be on set again? And that became me being a PA. That became me helping other people run their own classes to host and teach other actors or creatives. That came down to me asking casting directors if they needed a reader or helping with workshops. It just came down to me asking, what could I do? What could I learn? And this is what I've done before. This is what I can bring. And it really amplified my leadership skills and learning how to, like you said, like a field manager, like I really learned how to manage people on set and helping them with that and then helping streamline other people. So for me, it was a challenge in understanding that money is accessible. It may not look like how you expected, but money flows from all areas of your life, whether you realize it or not, especially in today's world and content creation. There's just so many ways to make money that can be a little easier and may not be like, I'm making $2,000 a day, but you could be making 200. And that can like alleviate the stress of, well, there goes my groceries for the month. Now I can focus on other things. Like if I get $10, $100 here and there, I can invest that, or I can put that towards a class. I can put that towards, a coaching session with someone. I can put that towards my bank account. I can save that. I can, or I can put that towards a vacation next year. Like it allows you to start looking forward. So for, money is still going to be always a struggle until we're all billionaires. For real, like it's still going to be until you really have an understanding of that and like investing, and you have to level up too with your money, because when you start making a certain amount of money, that means that requires certain taxes, like you talked about, like a certain level of tax bracket that you've reached, which means they take more money from you. 25 to 30, it turns to 40, you're like, oh, so I made 300,000 this year, but technically I got to pay 50, 60, 70,000 in taxes. He's like, so it's understanding the progress you make. It's understanding money and how you view it, your relationship with money, all of that, and having that conversation and being honest with yourself. Like, I don't know how to manage money. That's okay. That is absolutely okay. Ask a friend. There's so much on YouTube. There's so many things that people talk about money, so many ways. So just do your research and feel comfortable with that. And I had to do that. I had to ask friends. I even asked Janelle, like, Janelle, how do you freaking do this in your way? And understanding, like, well, I don't know how to bring my set or my craft into this and that. And it's just trusting that you'll get the answer and trusting in your own abilities, that money isn't hard to get. Money is easy when you find what works for you. And yeah, so, it's not saving for that rainy day sometimes. It's enjoying life too. At the same time, it's like, oh, well, I bought these fancy shoes or this one thing, and I'm going to wait until one particular event to go to. It's like, at the end of the day, we could all die, and then you'd have missed your opportunity to wear those boots, or those shoes, or go treat yourself once in a while and make it a priority to treat yourself in that too. And it could be something small, a cup of coffee, because that's going to energetically elevate you as well, to see money in a different way, to see money as accessible, to see money as enjoyable and fun, to not only spend, but to receive. So yeah, that's what I have to say. Whether that was, I think that was helpful, because I had to remind myself. I remind myself all the time about these things. I do. I have to. I'm like,
me too. I know and I love that you brought up the energetics, because that's the next thing I was gonna touch on, because we're also gonna dive deep into something that I see creatives struggle with all the time, is negotiating and pricing your work. like knowing your worth, setting the boundaries and communicating your value is super important because one, I had to shake that energetic barrier. I had to believe that someone in my family could make that much money doing something they loved. That was hard. It's got to light you up. I've met a lot of people that I worked when I was doing the home health care that they were like, oh my God, I never want to be in front of a camera. Like I want to be as far away from this camera as possible. So we always talk about if you have the desire, the dream is within reach, you have that. You have to listen to that. So I really had to be comfortable, like saying out loud, I wanted to make that money. There was a lot of guilt around that because that was more money than other people in my family had made. And the judgment, when you're negotiating and pricing your work, that will come up because people might be like, well, why should I pay you that much? Or I want to give you nothing. You're an actor. So you love your craft so much. I know you'll work for free. And if you haven't worked out the kinks within yourself to know what you bring to the table and to stand in that in a grounded way, you're going to be swayed more easily. So I wrote down how much I wanted to make each month, and it made it easier when these jobs came up because certain rates, like with production fit modeling, that's a certain rate, but maybe with a commercial production or working as the field producer, I might be like, hey, if we bumped it up $100, Amanda and I were just talking about this, or even $200 working on a film, that would make the difference because I was looking at my month and how much money I needed to make. And I'm like, a little extra 50 here, a little extra 100 here. And it was completely fair for what I was bringing to the table. And what you're going to find is when you know your worth, you're going to run into three things when you're trying to negotiate with people. One, someone is going to be willing to have the conversation, but being quite honest with you, they don't have the money. And it's your job then to decide whether or not that's going to be worth your time. And why are you saying yes if you're going to go through with it without money? And that's okay. Maybe it's a passion project. Maybe it's that you really believe in and that you need it for your reel, or you really love the people that you're working with. But you have to understand when you're saying yes to no money, you're taking yourself away with something else that could have paid you for that day. So you got to be really intentional about this. Two, you'll have the conversation with a person and they'll be like, oh, I didn't think about that. I'm sorry. Well, how about an extra $50 and I'll pay for food and for your ticket. Great. And then the third thing, and I really need y'all to watch out for this, is somebody getting angry with you because you just want to have a conversation about money. Because let me tell you, if you come to me and you want to have a conversation about money, I know my worth. I believe other people have worth and they deserve to be paid. Cool, let's have it. But if someone tries to make you feel some type of way because you came to the table and was like, I need to negotiate this because these are my boundaries, and they try to tell you there's something wrong with you, you don't want to work with that person. And this goes with work and even in your interpersonal life. You're trying to have financial conversations with those that you love and they want to make you feel bad about it. There's nothing wrong with knowing your worth and stating that and then having the conversation. You're not saying this or nothing, or maybe you are and then you decide later, or because we all have our different boundaries around it. But if you're just saying I need to talk about this and they're coming at you so harshly, run far away. It is not worth it. So please sit with yourself, especially actors. I see this all the time. You're worth some type of payment. I've hired photographers for modeling and they always want to be paid because they're like my equipment or the space I'm renting. And I think with actors, because we don't have some type of physical equipment, they'll work for free. And that's just not how it is. You're bringing your craft and your instrument. They can't do the project without you. So you should be compensated. So Amanda, I would love to hear what you have to add to all of that.
Yeah, it's such a delicate conversation because it's so sensitive with people who may potentially be struggling and people who are just not willing to give you the money because they just, like you said, they just don't want to, or they rather give it to someone else. It's being confident in having that conversation. I've had that conversation many times over. I remember I had to start taking my autonomy back and take control when I worked in the non-union world. Unfortunately, we don't have when you're in the non-union world, it's like, it's the wild, wild west, honey. It is the wild, wild west out there. And when that word in perpetuity is in the contract, be aware of what that actually means. Is they have your image, they have everything that they filmed for you that day and beyond, especially with AI nowadays, that they can use that forever. like forever, and so it's understanding what you're also signing, like having, like looking at these contracts and asking a friend who's already at a level that you're not and saying, hey, do you mind like looking at this contract for me and tell me what this is? If you don't know, use Google, all the things. There's so many tools out there that you can use, that you can drop it in and it'll explain it to you in layman terms, which is a person that's not in that field that can teach it in a way that it's like you're in first grade. And you go, oh, okay, I get that now. Because the language in there tricks you. It took me a while to understand certain languages too. I'm like, what does that mean? Let me look. Hold on. I'll get back to you tomorrow. Let me look this up. And it's also not being afraid to say you don't know and to give you time to find out. Don't let them rush you on contracts either. Do not let them rush you. Oh, well, we need it. I need to check in with my agent. Even if you don't have an agent or a manager, say that, or a lawyer, say it, so that you have that space to look at it, ask a friend or Google it or whatever. And then you come back and you ask questions. Say, so can you explain this, and this to me? Great. Thank you for that. Understand. Okay, great. I'm okay with that. Thank you so much. And you have that conversation because you gain your power back. You understand. It also feels better that whenever you get the check or whenever the money comes in, you're not like, oh, this could have been more. Oh, I should have did this. The shoulda, coulda, wouldas, you got to step that aside and start asking them now. So understanding what that looks like. You are a business person. You are the CEO of your brand. I am Amanda DeBraux. That is my brand. This is the brand. This is the parent company. And then there are companies below that. There's actor, model, host, podcast host, doing social media content, all the things that go under that. It's now understanding what that looks like for me and who I have on my team and around me, and surrounding yourself with people who are curious and want to understand and know more. But it's going back to the negotiation and everything. I remember in the non-union world doing a commercial and having an agent at the time, and I won't say who because out of respect, but and I did a commercial, and 6 months went by. I got paid for the day of work, of course, but the actual running of the project I never did. So I was like, oh, curious. Okay. And with the non-union work, sometimes you may not get paid for 2 months. Sometimes I may not get paid for 3 months, which is really, really annoying. But I get it because this is, again, different rules and regulations and all that stuff. I actually no rules and regulations, really. And 3 months go by. I'm like, all right. I asked my agent, hey, I haven't really heard anything about this project. Do you know when I'm going to get paid, kind of thing? Oh, I'll let you know. We haven't heard anything yet. Okay, great. Cool. 6 months go by. I'm like, all right. This is why it's really good to track. When it comes to actors, I have a spreadsheet that I work with as far as tracking auditions and the process that I go through, as well as the projects that I book, what I was going to get paid for, and when do I get paid. Because we can get lost in the moment of doing this and this and this and being busy, and you forget, you're like, wait a minute. I didn't get paid for this project. Or, okay, great. So it's really useful to track these things because it also shows that you're a businesswoman or a businessman or a business person. This is how you are running a business. You are a brand. So tracking that. So as I was tracking that, and I realized, again, 6 months went by, 7 months went by, 8 months went by. I kept asking my agent, hey, what's going on? And they just kept saying, oh, well, there's some issues. We'll get back to you. We're handling it. I'm like, great. What are the issues? May I know what those issues are? Because at this point now, money is involved and, it's your money, not only mine. You get 10% of that. So what's going on? Like, I'd like to know. Oh, and especially because my face is on the project and the project was actually airing. What's the problem? What's going on? And so sure enough, legit, a year went by and I did not get paid for that project. And around the time that this happened, full year, I started transitioning and I became union. So I really had to leave that agency because they weren't allowed to work with union actors. And so I had to, move on. And I was like, I got to close out all the projects that I worked with this particular agency. And at that point, I was like, F it. I'm going to look through my call sheet and I'm going to call it actual production company. I'm going to call a production company and I'm going to ask, hey, hi, my name is Amanda DeBraux. Respectfully, you come respectful. Come respectful as a business person, never with an attitude. At that point, of course, I was frustrated, but I'm never going to disrespect them because they may not know what's going on. There could be a lot of miscommunication. There could have been emails. It could have been handled already. I don't know. So I'm never going to assume that they know. I went in respectfully. So be respectful, because you don't know, someone could have just been hired yesterday and they're answering your call. And it's like, hi, I don't know. So be respectful. And I say, oh, hi, my name's Amanda DeBraux. I worked on this project at this day. And so I got paid initially for the day of work, but I never got paid for the running of the project. It's like, oh, wow, that's so odd. Okay, let me look that up. And they did. And no lie, within 24 hours, I had the check being issued to me. So, and I still gave my agency a 10% out of respect. I'm not going to not do that. And they weren't happy with me. And I understand that too. But at the end of the day, it was a year. And you weren't giving me any information about this project. Had you told me there was something going on, but at that point, if I got the check issued to me within 24 hours, paid in full to me directly. So all that to say is, and then again, once I got it, I did respectfully, I took the copies, and you got to understand, take the copies, you give it 10% to your agent. And I said, here you are. Thank you for this particular project. But at that point, I felt so empowered because I understood now, oh, this is how business people work. This is, money is money, but like it's out of respect. It's understanding that. And then I didn't want to work with that agency anymore, because at that point I didn't feel valued as well. And I was transitioning. So it kind of all happened at the right time. And I felt more comfortable speaking up for myself, which is why I'm such an advocate as a coach, empowerment coach. These conversations matter, and you need to be able to articulate yourself in those ways and practice it in the front of the mirror if you have to. But I had gotten that call, and that was a corporate world in me, and saying, hey, this is it. This is the information. Tell me more. What do I need to know about this? Do you need anything from me? Can I provide anything? Offer that too. Don't expect them to be respectful. Again, I always say that, be respectful, because I get it. We can get attitudes and upset and frustrated on money but again, it worked out. And from there on, again, what do? I am particular and meticulous about everything when it comes to a contract. I look at everything. I confirm with people. I sign everything. I keep copies of everything, track things. And I know it may sound like so particular and nuanced, but at the end of the day, when you come across something like this, you have all the information. You don't have to search for it. You don't got to go to anybody else. This is what it is. And you can communicate with your agent and manager if you have that. And if you don't have an agent or a manager, you still can have that power of having that conversation, because you have the information in front of you, or talk to a friend who's in that, in a level above you. Don't be afraid to ask. There are casting directors that when I was non-union, they helped me negotiate contracts. Thankful, because I asked. I said, they're more than happy to, because they understood the difficulty for non-union actors at that time. And now I'm union, so it's a little bit different now, and I'm navigating different conversations, the status quo and all the things. But this is what it is, running a business, being your CEO, being the brand of you, is every time you level up, you got to level up your mindset, you got to level up your knowledge, you got to level up the conversations you're having with people. And that energetically allows you to receive more as well. That means that you're here. You're no longer there up there, but it also allows you to have that confidence to go, well, this person's doing so much. We're at the same level, sir, ma'am. We're here. We can have this conversation. I value myself as an actor, as a creative, as a whatever that may be. Let's talk about it, and tell me what I don't know. And that's okay. I don't know because I haven't had the exposure to it or the knowledge. I didn't go to college for that. That I have a parent that was teaching me these things. That's okay. We're not meant to know everything. We're meant to be learning as we go. That is the whole purpose of this journey. I know this is a long-winded conversation and a long-winded answer, but I just had to share that because I had been through many situations where I had to advocate for myself in these conversations and say, let's talk about what would look like. What if we raised it $100 more? It's the what if. What if? What if we can? What would that look like? Great. And that's it. It doesn't hurt asking. It doesn't. It may feel that way, but it doesn't. And if it does, in that sense of like, how dare you? That's not the right people you want to work with anyway. Again, always be respectful, considerate of other people and where they are in a situation, the project or whatever it is. Just take a whole look at the situation before jumping in going, I deserve $3,000 more. It's like, all right, great. You sure the heck do. You do. We all deserve more. Look at the whole picture and see what the value is as well. And, there are many times where I didn't, get paid a lot of money, but the project really benefited me. And I have long-term friends. I have people who now reaching out to me 5, 7 years later. It's like, yeah, let's work together. I have a budget of, $2 million. I'm like, whoa, great. Relationships. Building relationships is also a thing with finances too. So yeah, that's my 3 cents, 2 cents, 10 cents, 50 cents, whatever.
Yeah, and it's important. And what I'm hearing is ask, man. Ask the question. Don't be afraid to ask. And there will be people that say no, you're not meant to work with them. You got to get to the yeses quickly. And it's so wonderful that you took that extra step to just call. And it's okay if people listening, you don't know to do that because you don't know what you don't know. And it can be very scary. But I was telling Amanda before we jumped on here, I've talked to my finance friends. I've had them look over emails I was going to send people regarding negotiating, and they're very bold. People can be quite bold. It's okay. And it's still respectful.
Mm-hmm.
They're just very simple. I was dating a producer lawyer for a long time, and I would send him contracts, and he would always say, take the emotion out of it.
Mm-hmm.
People don't have time for all those words. What do you want? I was like, okay.
Yeah.
And because you're so respectful, building the relationships or doing the project for less, or we can trust her. She knows what she wants. I always admire people that know what they want. I've figured it out and they really are good at their craft. I think these are the things. And it's just like, you know what you're getting with them. So
Mm-hmm.
I love everything that you're sharing, and everybody's listening. If there's more that you want to know about this, because I'm about to wrap this up, but please, anything we said today, if you want to know more about it, or I listen to a lot of audiobooks about topics if I don't understand them, or the YouTube or Instagram or TikTok. I'm learning a lot about investing now because it's something that's super important to me at this point in my life. What's that book? You Are a Badass at Making Money. I love that book. And there's so many more out there. So some tools, we talked about Monarch. You can listen to Audible books, just find different, you can find a coaching service if you want. There are different levels. Somebody can hold you accountable. And I love that you brought up, like watching your money, because sometimes with modeling, I'll go in, I'm only supposed to work so many hours. The client asked me to stay. I could still bill for that. But if it wasn't the original agreement, it's up to me to be like, wait, you missed this because you asked me to stay. And I can't tell you how many times I've done that.
Yeah.
Because people will try to keep their pennies sometimes. So
yeah. And you know what?
That's
we
okay.
Get it. We get it. Budgets, there's things and expectations, and there are businesses and corporations that they only have allocated amount of money for this particular campaign or whatever it is. And it's like, great, do you agree to this? And you said after 8 hours, I would get. So again, that's why it's so good to really understand what you're signing. Never just sign something just to sign something. I was taught very early on as an actor, the minute you walk on set, you find the PA and that you go into your trailer or you go into the waiting room, whatever. What do? They hand you your contract and you look it over. Even though you've had a conversation with your agent and you've had this and they've seen it before you, doesn't matter. Look it over. Take your time. Don't just sign it. Be conscientious.
I've worked without signing it for a little bit.
Yes.
I came up to I'm like, you can do my hair and makeup, but and they were like, we need you to sign this. I was like, you need to answer my question. And that was, maybe a little scary for me because I'm on this big set, but I was like, I need you to confirm because I showed up the other day and that wasn't part of the contract. And they're like, it's not. I was like, I came and I was there 5-6 hours and I need you to put that in. They quickly fixed it and they sent it to me, and it was respectful. And then they were apologetic, and there's a lot going on. People just might miss stuff and they don't know. So just take accountability for your career, show up boldly, shake these mindsets of creatives can't make a good living, or money isn't as important as long as I'm passionate, or the starving artist mindset. You can have the abundance. You can have both. It doesn't have to be one way or the other. And so just, leaving you with these key points. Financial planning isn't about restriction. It's about freedom, sustainability. Amanda was speaking to this, just the planning, and it empowers you to take control of your career in your life. And so we would love for you to just start small, start tracking your income or set a savings goal and know that your body might feel a little funky. Maybe your chest gets tight listening to this, or you feel certain something in your stomach, and that's okay. Just acknowledge it. And maybe you got to breathe, meditate, cry, my favorite thing. But then just please get back to it, because the only way you make progress is like these small actions. And your creativity deserves a solid foundation. It's okay to make money doing what you love. You're taking control of your future. Because I was able to build up a savings, I could fly myself to be a local hire in Atlanta. You're investing in yourself. You are your business. So we've been talking a long time. It's been 45 minutes. We love you. There's so much to say about this topic. We really care. Ask your friends if you need help. Everything we've told you, I can't even remember because we said so much. It's so amazing. So we love you so much. And remember, you can reach out to us. Please let us know your answers to the questions we brought up today. And we will see you soon. Bye.
Bye.
What are your thoughts about this episode?
Drop it in the comments and let us know what you want to dive into next.
Subscribe, like, share, and click the link below to book a free consultation. And
We'll see you next time.